vibes, good setters. Got me on the mic, now let's spill the tea. Talking courtside dreams from history. Legends on the blacktop now and then. From Will to Steph, we hit it again. Moment of chimes in, let's go deep. Young bloods rising, can't skip a beat. Puppy prospects with fire in their eyes. Draft night suckers and hoop dream highs. Wire to wire, bring the heat. Broadcast magic can't be beat. Do better, but go better. For who cares? Trendsetters.
What's poppin', y'all? It is your boy, it is Guardy3, and welcome to the 29th episode of the N1 Podcast, where we bring you everything hoops. Of course, joining me, like every week, it is the greatest co-host of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, it is, in fact, Mo Betta.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody. I'm doing great, man. Excited. Always get hyped up for these Thursdays. Appreciate everybody from stopping in. I appreciate Peanut as usual. Can't ready to talk some hoops. Let's get it.
So, you know how we do? We always start with an underrated player of the week. And of course, I was going to use my underrated player of the week to really talk about a guy. I'm sure we heard of him. Derrick Rose retired, and I'm going to use my my time here to show my respects to a truly phenomenal basketball player. You know, this is a guy coming out of college. He had all the expectations in the world coming to the Windy City, coming to Chicago, his hometown, to bring a franchise back to relevance, something that they haven't been since Jordan left town after the second three-peat. And he did just that. For the next solid 5 years or so, Chicago basketball became exciting. He tore an ACL, unfortunately, and he bounced back, hitting an iconic game winner in the 2015 playoffs against LeBron and the Cavs.
I remember that. Yeah.
This is overall, this is a guy who absolutely, no pun intended, deserves all of his flowers. And honestly, I hope Derrick Rose enjoys every minute in retirement, because that man has absolutely earned it.
Normally we go back and forth on our underrated players, but I'm gonna go with you and just kind of like shout out D Rose. I don't know if everybody can appreciate this. For the 3.5 years that he was at his peak in terms of health before he was injured, he was one of the most explosive, exciting, entertaining players I've ever seen, period. And I'm not talking for point guards. I'm talking about for anybody. And to your point, they had some good players after Michael Jordan, but he was the first guy since Michael Jordan that was a legitimate superstar. They hadn't seen a superstar since Michael Jordan. That's a long time. And I think the energy, the excitement he brought back, not just to the city of Chicago, but I think he injected some energy into the NBA as a whole. Look, it's disappointing, obviously, with the ACL situation. He did come back, but he never was really the same player. He was a good player, but he wasn't the Derrick Rose before that. And so he bounced around to a couple of teams. A lot of people gave up on him. I did not. I thought he could still play, that he would just have to adjust his game, and he did. He had a couple of terrific seasons as a six-man with Minnesota. I think he revived his career. He actually became a much better three-point shooter. He became more of a real point guard. He slowed it down a little bit. He was a little bit more methodical. He picked when to attack, when not to. People can say it's a sad ending, but I want to remind you guys, he tore his ACL 3.5 years into his career. He still had a 15, 16-year career, and he still entertained and wowed a lot of fans. I know because of the injury, a lot of people are going to say Derrick Rose fits into that category of what if, along with guys like Brandon Roy, and I get that. That's a fair assessment. But I just want to give a shout out to those amazing first 3.5 years he gave us. And I want to give him credit for it because it takes a lot of work to bounce back from an ACL. And he fought through that. And again, he wasn't the same Derrick Rose, but he was still an entertaining player.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he will always be one of the great what ifs, but at the end of the day, Derrick Rose absolutely deserves everything. Like, not many players can bounce back from what he did, but he knocked it out of the park. So I love to see it. And not only Derrick Rose is getting honored, but we have a couple of jersey retirements that were announced. Of course, we're talking about. We'll start with the bigger name. Vince Carter is getting his jersey retired by the New Jersey Nets. Good for him. Good for him. He's definitely one of the more iconic players in Nets history. But I also, the Nets are in a very long list of iconic players. Overall, good for him. He deserves to be honored. He deserves to be recognized. So good for VC.
Yeah, it's a great honor for him. And he was really good when he was with the Nets. I would guess that for me, I would maintain the best version of Vince Carter was in Toronto. He was a terrific player with the Nets, but he was a better player when he was with the Raptors. And I get why he's being honored. Look, if you're a Net fan, it's not like you have a lot of reasons to cheer. So, I mean, why not honor somebody? Like, matter of fact, if I were the Nets management, I'd be like, you know what? We should try to honor somebody like every other week just to find different ways to draw the fans in. Like, can we honor Kerry Kittles or Keith Van Horn? Like, can we you know what? Maybe long overdue. I don't know if they've done this, Brett. You might know. Did they retire Drazen Petrovic's number?
I don't believe so.
You know what? I think it's something they could do. I think it's long overdue. You could do that. I don't know what they've done with Jason Kidd, but I have to assume if you haven't honored Jason Kidd, you should. The man led you to back-to-back finals.
Absolutely. I'm shocked that J Kidd hasn't been honored at this point. Honestly, it's pretty wild to me. And of course, the other one that's getting his jersey retired. This one I was so happy to see. He is almost a litmus test for how much do you watch basketball relative to box score. I'm talking about Tony Allen because I already saw it. Go into the comments. Oh, well, Tony Allen only averaged 8 points a game. How is he getting his jersey retired? Tony Allen's a guy that did everything else right. Was he a scorer? Not by any stretch of the word, no. It's one of the big reasons he didn't last even longer in the league. But this is a guy who would clamp your favorite player. He was the guy that gave guys like Klay Thompson fits. He gave guys like Kawhi Leonard fits. Anybody that matched up against Tony Allen got absolutely tortured. He was just an absolute amazing talent. Defensively, when you talk about your best guard defenders, I don't think it's a stretch to say Tony Allen's one of the 10 best guard defenders that we'd ever seen. That's how good of a talent Tony Allen was. And he's somebody who's got the highest praise possible. Kobe Bryant said that Tony Allen was the guy who covered him the hardest. He was the toughest guard for him to crack. When you're getting praise like that from Kobe, that says something about how tough you are. So,
Agreed.
Honestly, congratulations to everybody involved. Congrats to VC. Congrats to Tony Allen.
Yeah, congrats.
Derrick Rose, have yourself a hell of a retirement, man. You earned it.
No, I couldn't have said it better. Tony Allen wasn't just a great defender in terms of the way that he played the angles. He was as athletic and as quick as your favorite player was. He was a freakish athlete, even though he wasn't a great scorer. So you couldn't outquick him, and he was stronger than most two guards. You couldn't overpower him, and he had strong hands, quick, strong hands. So if you were lazy with your handle, he's ripping you. Tony Allen was an elite defender, and I like what you said, Brett. I would dare say you're spot on. He's got to be one of the 10 best perimeter guard defenders ever. People will look at the box score. Don't look at the box score. If you look at box scores and that's how you judge players on just that alone, then you're missing a lot of good basketball.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What's popping, Gene? Thanks for popping in, man. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. 100%. And, you know, we're going to switch over to the WNBA here because there's a lot of controversy going around in the WNBA right now. And they had to put out this statement. The WNBA is a competitive league with some of the most elite athletes in the world. While we welcome a growing fan base, the WNBA will not tolerate racist, derogatory, or threatening comments made about players, teams, and anyone affiliated with the league. League security is actively monitoring threat-related activity and will work directly with teams and arenas to take appropriate measures to include involving law enforcement as necessary. So let me start off by saying this because, you know, I saw the comments and everything that was left. And, you know, there was issues at the actual game itself with, you know, racial slurs being thrown around. These athletes are also human. Listen, they make mistakes. It happens. But at the end of the day, they're all human, and they don't deserve to get racial slurs thrown at them. They don't deserve death threats. They don't deserve any of that. You can pay to go watch them, but that doesn't mean they deserve to, you know, they deserve all of your crap.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
The part that throws me off with the WNBA putting out that statement is it almost feels like it's too late. It's great that they addressed it, but this is something that's been going on. This is something that we've seen in the conversations with, like, Angel Reese, for example. She's a great example of this. You wanted the game to grow. You got it. You got immensely more popular. You have more eyes on the product this year. With more eyes on the product, with more viewership, also comes more haters, more trolls. And that's something it almost feels like the WNBA just didn't prepare for. They weren't ready for that. And it's something that I think that they kind of failed in their preparations for. How many times have we seen in the NFL, a kicker misses a field goal? Yeah, I got death threats after the game. How many times you go to the NBA? Yeah, we see somebody get kicked out for racial slurs. It's something that shouldn't happen. None of these guys deserve it. They're professional athletes. You can boo them, you can criticize their game, but their personal integrity does not deserve to be attacked by you. They don't deserve to be threatened or anything. But at the same time, it feels like the WNBA is just reacting too late to all this. Like, this is something that should have been addressed. And addressing it now is good. But it feels like, I don't know, Mo. Do you think that it's a little late, like they should have done this sooner?
It's very late. Their commissioner, that's what she does. She reacts to everything that's going on rather than being proactive. She's more than a beat or two behind with everything that's going on. She could have came out weeks ago with a stronger statement about this. And look, I appreciate the statement that she did put out, but I think it's too little too late. The season's almost over. Look, the thing about sports that brings us all together is that usually the point about sports is you can go in there, I can root for my team, you can root for your team, and any differences should be set aside to just sit there and enjoy the event itself, right? And what's happening is there are some people, not all people, but you're going to get some people that come in there now and they're venting and they're saying things that are not just disrespectful, but they could be considered a little bit dangerous, derogatory, dehumanizing. I think the WNBA, like even that statement, it's a statement. You're going to have to take action and take a stronger stance against this kind of behavior. You can be a paying customer, but if we hear you or see you saying derogatory things to a player that are of a racial, you got to go. You got to go. What we don't want is we don't want that. We don't want you. If you're, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no need for that in all of sports. And my problem with their commissioner is she won't say that. She'll never say anything like that. The players will because they have to take up for themselves. They're actually leading the commissioner, not the other way around. And that's not the way it should be. So, look, I don't know how you solve this. I really don't. Because it's not like you can look into somebody's heart and know who they are or how they are. I guess the best way to go about this is if you enjoy the sport, just come there and enjoy the sport. Cheer for your team, boo for the opposing team, criticize. You can even heckle, but it should never get personal. It should never be racist. And if it is, you shouldn't be there. You should be removed.
Yeah, 100% agree. It's almost like to a point now, and I hate almost saying this, but I think the commissioner, like you said, needs to be more proactive. I think you said that absolutely perfectly. And it's almost to a point where they kind of almost, I don't know if they can do like much about it at this point. Like, you're always going to have the trolls. You're always going to have like those terrible people. And if they send you a death threat or anything, call them out. Call them out if they go way too far. But I think we're at a point now where a lot of these online trolls and criticisms are just going to have to start kind of ignoring. Kind of like these NBA players who, kind of like these NBA players. They get criticized all the time, but they'll just absolutely ignore, they'll completely ignore the trolls. And
I think the criticism, it's one thing to ignore somebody heckling your game or saying you're not playing well or saying he's trash or she's trash. It's another thing when maybe you're sitting on your bench or you're walking towards your bench and a fan engages you, and while they engage you, they throw a racial slur at you. I'm not sure I don't know how you ignore that. I don't think you should ignore that. I think every time that comes up, you need to call that out right there in the moment. Call that out.
100%.
Because that's the only way you can combat that kind of stuff, if you call it out right there in the moment. And then after the game, when you're in the post-game press conference, and I'm sure some member of the media says, we can't help but notice you and a fan got into an altercation and they said this, and how do you feel? Express your feelings. Call it out. I think that's one of the ways you can combat this. But what they need is leadership. The players shouldn't be having to do the work of the commissioner and the commissioner's front office. If they're not doing their jobs, then they need to be replaced.
Couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. I think there are some criticisms and just trolling you can ignore, but things like just being straight up blatantly racist and things like that nature, just call it out. I think next year they'll be much more prepared for just everything because now they have an idea of what to expect. That's what I'm hoping for, that everything will be much smoother next year since they now have a full year of expanded popularity like this under their belt. But overall, I guess it's kind of a thing where we're going to have to wait and see.
And to be fair, that same kind of atmosphere, if you want to call it that might have been there in the 80s when Magic and Bird were going against each other. The only difference was we didn't have social media. Everybody didn't have a cell phone. Everybody wasn't a potential witness or an accuser per se with their cell phone. But I'm sure there was some racial animus back in those days as well. I'd like to think as sports goes forward, here we are in year 2024, that's not an issue anymore. But it just goes to show you, even now, when things have gotten better, there are always going to be those kind of trolls out there that say those kind of trashy, classless things. They just will.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And switching over, we'll talk some NBA. like I said, I got a little NBA talking earlier today. Shout out to the guys at Hoops Temple. We talked some Bucks with our boy Nate. We had a
My
lot
guy
of
Nate.
Oh yeah, oh, it was a ton of fun. You know, I gave some high praise to my guy Andre Jackson Jr. Oh, I wanted to ask you this, Mo. Were you able to see a lot of Andre Jackson play?
I did not see a lot of him. Did not.
Oh yeah, so I love him. I think he's a very all-around versatile player. He's a great playmaker, great finisher. He's shooting is shaky. That's his real big flaw, but he's an aggressive defender. I said this on there, and I'm going to say it here because it might sound a little bold, but I think it's got the potential to hit. If Andre Jackson reaches his full, I'm not going to say this man's going to be like some sort of all-star superstar, but I think he can be to the Bucks what Lamar Odom was to the 09 Lakers.
Wow,
That's high praise. Knife that can absolutely, be a secondary playmaker. And if he can get that, and the key with that is he has to get his jumper going. But if he can, find his jumper, I think he absolutely can reach that level of what Odom was to that team. I think Andre Jackson can be to this team.
If he's anywhere near that level of play, that's a big come up for the team, especially and for the bench and the rotation in general. So yeah, that's high praise. 09 Odom, when he was with the Lakers, that's the best version of Odom.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love Lamar Odom. He's an absolutely talented player. He's a favorite in one of the Discords that I'm in.
Is he really?
Yeah, he's definitely one of the big talking points. Everybody loves Lamar Odom, it seems. Shout out to the Thinking Basketball Discord.
Wait a minute. They love Lamar Odom. Do they love Lamar Odom more than they love Michael Beasley?
Oh yeah. But TikTok, on the other hand, seems to absolutely love Michael Beasley. And I had gotten into some debates about Michael Beasley, unfortunately. So let me pull up this Michael Beasley quote, and we'll start there, and then I can kind of explain where this hilarious debate nature kind of came from. So Michael Beasley said in a podcast he could have taken the Knicks to the playoffs if they didn't play him out of position in 2017. Mind you, that's when he was on the team. The actual quote, with Porzingis, Tim Hardaway, and Courtney Lee, I could have made that a playoff team. I was playing out of position. If they had played me at the 2-guard fronted with Jared Jack, I would have been better. I've been playing out of position my whole career. You play me at the 1, 2, or 3. I'm bigger. I'm better on defense. Now I had somebody to play pick and roll with. I could have run a great pick and roll game with Kyle O'Quinn and Kristaps Porzingis, but Jeff Hornacek was on the hot seat, and Porzingis didn't really know how to play good basketball. I was just playing basketball, so that situation was trash, man. Now, my comment on that was, guess what? It doesn't matter. Michael Beasley was not leading that team to the playoffs under any circumstances. You could have increased his minutes. You could have increased him up to, you could have increased the minutes. He could have been increased up to like 35 minutes a game, along with everything. Formulate the rotation however you want. That team is not cracking the playoffs.
No.
But I had some people fighting me on this. Yo, you have no idea how good Michael Beasley is. Yo, he was nice. I'm not saying Michael Beasley wasn't nice. But he's not a winning player. We've seen that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's the problem. Yes, he was nice. And I said this to you earlier. He might go down as one of the greatest one-on-one players in the history of basketball. And then you put him on the floor with 9 other guys, and 9 times out of 10, he's lost. Now, he gave you the cop-out. I was playing out of position. Miami didn't play Michael Beasley at the 4 all the time. He got to play at the 3. The truth of the matter is Michael Beasley you watch him now. Where do you see him starring? Where is he starring in, Brett? Where is he dominating everybody at? In the big three. In the big three. I'm not trying to knock the big three, but I want everybody to just to pull yourself back to reality a little bit. Michael Beasley, if I had to guess, what is he, 30, 31, maybe 32? The problem with the big three is you got guys in there from age ranges 27 to 40 or 45. You looking good in a 3-on-3 half-court game, it's not going to get you an NBA contract because everybody's seen large sample size of Michael Beasley, a talented player again, but low basketball IQ. Can't play without the ball in his hands, doesn't cut, doesn't move without the ball. Not just a poor defender, the man couldn't stop a nosebleed. And Pat Riley, who's as tough as they come and is a very good talent evaluator, saw 2 years of Michael Beasley and said, I've seen enough. I've seen enough. And everywhere Michael Beasley has gone, they've seen enough. So he can say that crazy stuff about he would have took, what was that? The 20, what was that? The 2017?
Yeah.
He couldn't take them to the playoffs. Gandalf couldn't take them to the playoffs. Thanos couldn't have taken them to the playoffs. That's not reality. That's not reality. It's easy to say that because you're doing a hypothetical and you're propping yourself up. But if you had that ability in you to do what you just said, you'd still be in the NBA. That's the harsh reality. Michael Beasley's not in the NBA because being a professional basketball player or being a professional athlete in general, it's not just about your ability. It's about where you're at in your head with your mental. And Michael Beasley, let's be real, his temperament and the way he handles things, he was his own worst enemy. That's why he's not in the NBA. Point blank, period.
Yeah, let's play. We're gonna play a fun game, Mo, because he said that, and I even double checked the roster to make sure I wasn't missing something. And the roster to me is what makes this comment so much worse. We're gonna play a game called Spot the Playoff Team. I'm gonna see if I can change your mind by telling you this roster that he said he could have made the playoffs with. So at point guard, we have a rotation of Frank Nicolatina, Jared Jack, and Trey Burke. Shooting guard, Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway Jr. Small forward, Doug McDermott. Power forward, Michael Beasley and Kristaps Porzingis, and even Lance Thomas got minutes. And then at center, Enos Freedom and Kyle O'Quinn.
Not Kyle O'Quinn.
Yeah. Kyle O'Quinn. What's up, Wire Sports Podcast? Thank you for tuning in on our TikTok. But yeah, so that's my question, Mo. Can you tell me where the playoff team is? Is it in the room with us? Because it sure isn't the team I just read off.
No, the team you just read off, what I'm hearing is lottery. I'm hearing lottery team. And look, by the way, some of those guys, there's some familiar names that you named off, but a guy like Jared Jack, I think Jared Jack was about done. You know what I'm saying? Like he was near the end of his career. Like he was a solid player when he was younger, but he was near the end of his career. The idea that you were going to be good at the two guard with Courtney Lee, who's not a shooter. Courtney Lee's a slasher. I just think, look, I love the fact that Michael Beasley has confidence. There's nothing wrong with having that kind of confidence, but you can base some of your confidence, at least try to like live in reality a little bit. What he's saying, what's coming out of his mouth, it reeks of Narnia.
And my favorite part too about that quote is you could have played me at the one. You do realize part of the one's job is setting up other players? Like, I'm sorry, but Michael Beasley, the point guard, one, you're defending players much faster than you. That just sounds like the recipe to allow 20 points a game. Two, and this is what I said on TikTok, I'll say it again here, the reality of running an offense through this man, it's just a watered-down version of a Knicks mellow offense. That's literally just running a worse version of the same offense. You looked at it and went, we want to move away from that. We want to move away from mellow iso ball. you run an offense through Michael Beasley, you're literally running the same offense, but just much worse.
Not as good because he wasn't as good as Melo. Now, he might be better than Melo if they go to a rec center and play a game of one-on-one. But if you put on a jersey and there's some referees and there's 8 other players on the floor with the 2 of them, it will be no mystery who the better player is. I'm sorry. For whatever reason, it seems like Michael Beasley, his game seems to be cut more for street ball. Maybe that's where he'll thrive at. But he didn't throw. And here's the crazy thing. You could go look at his career numbers. And if I had to guess, because I don't have them in front of me, I believe he averaged around 14 or 15 points a game for his career, which isn't bad. He didn't shoot a bad percentage. But raw numbers alone don't detail his impact or lack thereof when he was on the floor. And if you put Michael Beasley at point guard, you just called it out. You just created a horrible cross mismatch for your team. Michael Beasley's going to chase Steph Curry off screens. Michael Beasley's going to stay in front of Kyrie Irving. Michael Beasley's going to deal with somebody like Chris Paul at his peak. No, he's not. No, he's not. Michael Beasley's going to stay in front of Ja Morant. No, he's not. Like, that's crazy. Michael Beasley's going to be able to bring the ball up the floor with Drew Holiday all over him. No, he's going to get ripped. He's going to get ripped several times. Like, come on, man. You overrating your NBA career. You are an NBA talent. But if we just said Michael Beasley the talent could have been an all-star, no question. But Michael Beasley never living up to the talent in the NBA. That's a Michael Beasley. Nobody else.
No, absolutely. And another guy who said something interesting, Robert Horry. Robert Horry.
Oh, no.
I deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, this is the absolute test of all tests of how much you value rings, isn't it? We're at this point where rings weigh so much that we're going to consider a Robert Horry Hall of Fame introduction, are we?
They're actually, they've been used in the Robert Horry argument. Some of these slow-witted people, they've been using the Robert Horry argument for Robert Horry's got 7, so he better than Jordan. He can go. Like when you're the role player, how about this? I'll do it in a different way. If you've ever heard of the Jacksons, you're not Michael, you ain't Jermaine, you ain't Randy or Marlon. Rest in peace, you're Tito. And if you Tito, nobody comes to see Tito. I'm just being real. Nobody came to see Tito. The only people that came to see Tito was Tito's family, and they was on the stage with him. That's just a harsh reality. Are you crazy? Are you crazy talking like this? Come on, man. Do better. Do better. Robert Horry, look who he played with. He played with Akeem Olajuwon. Did they go, oh, we got to double off of Robert Horry? No, they doubled off Akeem. You know who they left open? Robert Horry. You got one job, bro. Then he goes and he plays with Kobe and Shaq. You wide open for a reason. You are the role player. I get it. You made big shots and you deserve all the credit in the world. You're not a Hall of Famer. Nobody. Look, the only guy I know that can average 6 or 7 points a game and be in the Hall of Fame is a guy that averaged like 15 or 16 rebounds and is an all NBA defender. Robert Horry was a decent defender, but he wasn't a great defender and he wasn't a great rebounder. If you're not the best of anything, how could you be considered to be in the Hall of Fame? I'm sorry, that's crazy talk. You got the 7 rings because you got to play with Hall of Fame players. You weren't one of them. Kobe and Shaq, Hall of Famers. Tim Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, they're going to be Hall of Famers. You're not part of that club. You're in that other club with Derek Fisher and Steve Kerr and Mario Elie and people of that nature. Sean Livingston. You're part of that club. And if they let you into the Hall of Fame, well, they got to let all them in the Hall of Fame. You do. You got to let role players in the Hall of Fame. No, role players don't belong in the Hall of Fame. I already have a hard time with European players getting into the Hall of Fame, not based off of their NBA careers, but based off of a combination of their NBA careers and their much better EuroLeague careers, and that's how they get in the Hall of Fame. And if you're going to do it that way, NBA, then you should be able to do it the other way around. Stephon Marbury made multiple All-Star teams was a 19-point per game scorer in the NBA, went to China and won 3 national championships for China and was like the Jordan over there in China. So based off of that criteria, shouldn't Stephon Marbury be able to get into the Hall of Fame? Right? You're not going to tell me Vlade Divac was a better player than Stephon Marbury. He wasn't. You're not going to tell me that. There's a look. Vlade was a good player, but the idea that Vlade Divac's name is right next to Robinson, Olajuwon, Ewing, Mourning, O'Neal, Jabbar, one of those don't fit. You got to do better than that. And I get it. They don't have a professional basketball Hall of Fame. It's just the basketball Hall of Fame. I do understand that. Maybe what they should do is create a professional basketball Hall of Fame, so then you can separate the truly great players from the very good players.
Say you let Robert Horry in the Hall of Fame. I think that that then all of a sudden Andre Iguodala is a surefire Hall of Famer.
Surefire.
Like Sean Marion all of a sudden becomes first ballot. It just creates such an interesting dilemma now. So what constitutes a Hall of Famer? And that's already a definition that's really mucked up because they combine EuroLeague success, Olympic, and NBA.
And college.
But they ignore quite a few other leagues, but it's just it's already too hard to kind of tell who's going to be a Hall of Famer at times and who's not. I really don't think we should muck up the definition even more by letting Robert Horry in. He was a great player. He knew how to pick his teams. I'll give him credit. The man put himself in the best situations possible to win basketball games, to win rings. He was great at that. Credit to him, credit to his agent. He had a great career, but do not put this man in the Hall of Fame.
And look, he starred in his role. He deserves credit for that. He's not a Hall of Fame player, man. We got to stop doing that. Look, you could make a better argument that if you took Christian Laettner's college career in all the big moments that Christian Laettner had in the national championships, and then throw in his pro career. By the way, Christian Laettner did make an all-star team. He did average double digits in points for many years in his career. He just wasn't the big star that he was in college. But if you're combining college and what you do in the Olympics, by the way, he's got a gold medal for being on Dream Team. I mean, he rode Pine, but he was still there. But if you're doing all that stuff, Christian Laettner has just as good an argument as Robert Horry does. At least Christian Laettner can say, I made an all-star team, right? I made an all-star. I averaged double digits in scoring. When did Robert Horry ever average double digits in scoring?
Yeah.
By the way, one of the worst trades or moves that Danny Ainge ever made, and this was early on. This was early on before Danny Ainge became the guy that swindles people. He brought Robert Horry to Phoenix because their scouting staff believed that Robert Horry, free of Olajuwon, had the same skill set as Scottie Pippen.
That is a wild. Even Peanut disagrees with that assessment.
No, he learned the hard way. Like, Robert Horry don't get no handle. He's not agile. He's stiff.
Yeah, that's an insane assessment. Even just watching him, just eye test alone can tell you those are two just absolutely vastly different basketball players.
He look, like you said, it must be nice. I mean, you can tell stories that nobody else can tell. You played with so many all-time great players. Olajuwon to Shaq and Kobe to Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker. You play with all those dudes. That's insane. Like, who else could say? And not to mention, even some of the other guys who weren't as big as stars, but you played with Rick Fox and Derek Fisher. Like, you got to play with a lot of really good basketball players over the breadth of your career. And it's funny that you brought him up, Brett, because I was looking at some of the greatest, I guess you call signature moments in NBA history. Sure enough, that shot that he made in Game 4 against the Kings when Vlade knocks the ball out and it goes right into Robert Horry's hand and he launches the three right at the buzzer with Chris Webber going out after him. That is one of the great shots in NBA playoffs history.
Yeah.
If he misses that shot, a lot of people forget if he misses that shot, that's a 3-1 series. That series is basically over. The Kings were having their way with the Lakers. He misses that shot, it's a wrap.
No, absolutely. We it's funny making that video that I made on page. It reminded me of how good of a passer Vlade Divac was. I was making it, and like half the plays, it's just Vlade, great read, and they played such almost like a modernized offense in 2002. Their offense was like miles ahead of where the other offenses were at the time, at least most of them.
100%. I made a video. I asked the question, where would the 2000, I think it was 2002, 2003 Kings be if you dropped them in today's NBA? Because I think they would do well. I think they'd be one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah, Pedro's already such a great movement shooter. Mike Bibby. You add in, Chris Webber and Divac. That would be a really fun team, honestly, to drop into 2024.
Doug Christie, Bobby Jackson, like they had a squad.
No, absolutely. Honestly, that's one of my favorite parts with making videos like that is like kind of getting reminded of just how truly great some of these players were. A reminder, like, holy cow, there's just so much movement, such great chemistry. It's really unfortunate they couldn't win one. Granted, it's good for your Lakers they weren't able to win one, but
hey, I still get friends to this day that they come at me and they want to argue about that game 6. And I'm like, look, man, I didn't control the officiating. I got nothing to say about that. Look, I'm a Laker fan, and that was the worst called game I've ever seen. It was terrible, but I don't know what to say. I don't want the Lakers to give back the championship, so we move on.
No, that's fair. And I understand. Another take that I saw online, and I'm sure there's probably 8 angry Knicks fans in my Twitter right now for bashing on their players.
Oh, for sure.
But there was a post that somebody made. Mo, would you do this trade? You're the GM. I'll be the GM of the Bucks. You're the GM of the Knicks, Mo. I call you up. Mo, I will give you Giannis if you give me Julius Randle and OG Anunoby. What's the answer?
I'll have Giannis there by the night. Yes, I'll take Giannis. Are you kidding me? Like, what? Look, you're talking about 2 really good players and 1 all-time great player already. Like, we're talking about a transcendent player and 2 really good players. We're talking about a first back. If he doesn't play anymore right now, by the way, Brett, if he stops playing right now today, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, right?
No.
Garrett, book it. If those 2 stop right now today, years later they're gonna be talking like Robert Horry. I should have been in the Hall of. Because they're not gonna get in. They're not getting in. My problem with Knicks fans, and this has been a thing with Knicks fans for many, many years, they overvalue their own. They always have. They overvalue their own players. Julius Randle, they've turned Julius Randle into this thing where they're like, well, Julius Randle can do a lot of things that Giannis can't do, and I'm like, I don't know what he does. I mean, he can shoot the 3 better. I give you that, but he didn't even shoot that at a high level. But he can shoot, even for what it's worth. He shoots the 3 better, but Giannis is just as good a facilitator. Giannis is a better rebounder. He's a better defender. He's a more efficient scorer. They're not. It's not like they make it sound like they're equals. You know what I mean? Like Knicks fans make it sound like all we're getting back for Julius Randle and OG is Giannis. Y'all need to send back Giannis and Dame. Like they think they're getting robbed. They think they're getting robbed. Are you crazy? If I'm the Bucks and I'm sending you Giannis, I'm asking why we didn't start with Brunson. Like, so we must be getting back Brunson. Give me I'd rather have Brunson and OG than Julius.
No, absolutely. But the hilarious part, Mo, is I'm going to read you this because this is the funniest thing to me. Somebody said no, and this was their defense. Giannis is becoming less of a weapon. Our style of ball makes Randall and OG as valuable as they are. So I'd rather keep them. Yes, Giannis is better than both, but he's not going to produce what they both do for us. Randall is the leader on offense. OG is the leader on defense. Like, how do you not know your own team? Julius
Right.
Randle isn't even the leader on offense. That's Jalen Brunson.
100% facts. Right.
Honestly, Giannis just might produce as much, if not more, than both of them. Like, combined. Like, he's solid. Like, you know he's going to give you the scoring. He can give you 30 if you need him to. He can give you about 11, 12 rebounds if you need him to. And he'll even just for fun add in five assists or so. He's just such an all-around faceted playmaker. I read this and I just started dying of laughter because I'm like, there's just absolutely no way.
And he's an all NBA defender. You left that part out.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't even touch the defense yet.
like he actually does. I guess if you mish them together, he does what both of them do by himself. I am no way bashing OG Anunoby, who, by the way, is one of my favorite players. I actually like him. He's one of those kind of underdog players that I always root for. But him and Randall are not equal to Giannis. I don't see how Knicks fans wouldn't see that if they got Giannis, because you would be getting Giannis to go with Brunson, to go with Bridges, to go with DiVincenzo, to go with Josh Hart. That team's going to the conference finals at a minimum. I'd say they're going to the finals. Giannis and Brunson in a pick and roll? Come on, man. You know how that's going to end. Somebody's getting embarrassed. Come on. You send Randall and OG to the Knicks. Are the Bucks? The Bucks wouldn't be a bad team, but nobody would be talking about them like, wait till the Bucks get to the conference finals. No, Bucks fans would be like, well, another year, another knockout in the first round. That's what they would say.
That's the part that would make me so mad about that trade. If it ever even just thinking about it makes me so mad because that's just trading Giannis for mediocrity. Listen, I don't want to do that. If we ever have to trade Giannis, go all in. Go all in. Trade him for as many firsts as possible. And go get young talent.
And that's the only way you would move a player, a transcendent player like that, is if you're like, oh, you're going to give me one of those. I'm getting back 5 number ones, right? And I'm getting back a couple of number 2s and some pick swaps. Like, you're giving me the house for this guy. Then if I had to, yes, I would make that trade. But if you make the trade for OG and Julius Randle, right after the trade's completed, your GM's getting fired.
Yeah, or just imagine going to your owner. Yeah, I had a chance to get Giannis, but they said they wanted OG and Julius Randle. I said no. No picks or anything, just a straight up swap. He probably wouldn't even let you leave the room. Like, yeah, you're gone. Security just
right.
This man out of the building.
He was like, wait a minute. We could have had Giannis and your stopping point was it was OG and Julius. You're fired. You're so fired.
The funny part is in a later tweet, he goes, I would rather trade Julius Randle for a single star like Sengun. And I'm like, so you do a straight up swap, but you won't add OG to get the all NBA top 3 player in the league?
Explain that logic. By the way, that logic actually is closer to reality. Yes, I don't think the Rockets would do it, but that's almost closer to reality. If the Rockets thought, okay, Sengun's coming up and he's getting ready to get his max contract, right? He's in his lame duck season. Maybe we don't want to pay this young man upwards of $200 million. We could trade him for Julius Randle. That's more realistic than the other dumb idea that the Knicks would turn down the ability to get young. Like, the Knicks have been looking for a transcendent player. And look, I think a lot of people think Melo is the best Knick. I think Melo was a terrific Knick. I still think the best version of him was when he was on Denver. The best Knick, even though he didn't win a title, it's Patrick Ewing. Now, if you want to go old school, it's Clyde Frazier and
David Busher.
It's Clyde Frazier, Willis Reed, and Dave DeBusschere if you go old school. But if you're going modern, it's Patrick Ewing. The Knicks were always in the conference finals. They went to a couple of NBA finals. It's Patrick Ewing. Melo never got them anywhere near the finals. Never sniffed it.
It's so weird to think they could have had such a great squad if Melo would have waited a couple months.
Right, dude. It's not like you're like, I don't know, man. These bills are getting high. I can't wait. He had to go and take that deal. And I'm like, you just ruined everything. If he could have waited, he could have just walked and been a Nick. Everybody that was on that squad that they traded for them, they would have still been there. Now, add Melo to that squad. That squad is a legitimate title contender.
I was going to say, yeah, because I don't remember everybody that went, but key names I remember was like Wilson Chandler, Danilo Gallinari. And the worst thing for them is one of the picks that they traded just happened to be the pick that Denver used on Jamal Murray, which is absolutely kind of funny to think that, Carmelo, in a way, helped bring a title to Denver. Good guy. Good for him.
That's hard. That's a hard thought to take, but yeah, that's the realities. What do we always say? Sometimes it's the trades you don't make, that come, or the trades you do make that come back to bite you. It happens to the best of us.
By the way,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, we got some breaking news. WNBA breaking news. The Chicago Sky just parted ways with Teresa Witherspoon. She will not be back next year as the head coach of the Sky.
Wow. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't she in her first year or second year?
Yep.
That was fast. Wow.
One and under.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. Well, I think that's one of those things where management got together and maybe they talked to some of the players, and the players were like, maybe there's a lack of chemistry there. There was something not right in that locker room. And I guess if you're going to get rid of her sooner than later, because Cardosa, along with Angel Reese and some of those other young players, they're part of your future. And I know a lot of people don't like Cardoso and Angel Reese together because their skill sets are similar. I disagree. I think you can stagger their minutes more. I don't think they need to be on the floor together as much. But when you have two people who have the kind of motors that they both have, Brett, when they attack the basket, attack the boards the way they do, that's valuable in any league. So I wouldn't be quick to part ways with either one of those.
Yeah, I think that's a duo that can play together, but they definitely need to stagger their minutes a bit until one of them at least develops. I need one of them to at least develop even like a 10, 12-foot jump shot.
Even if it's a set shot.
Right, absolutely. Like, I need one of them to be able to at least give me a couple 12-footers a game to somewhat space the floor. And I really think just they could. I'm one of those guys, I'm not going to lie, but honestly, what I'm about to say, this is more of what I'm thinking is the Chicago Sky thought process than the talent. I do think that the Chicago Sky will end up moving on from one of the two. I don't think that's an indictment on either Cardosa or Angel Reese. I think they're both very talented ladies. But I think we maybe just saw that the Chicago Sky, they're impatient. This is a team that's used to being able to get into the playoffs. They're used to being successful. And now, all of a sudden, this first year, they gave their coach 1 year. They're like, nope, you're out.
Yeah, that to me that's too quick. That 1 year is too quick to give a coach the hook, unless you really feel like this coach isn't part of our future. We've seen enough. Maybe they're disappointed in the way she didn't develop some of the younger players, or the way she didn't set some of the older players up for success. I don't know. It could be a number of reasons, but I think you make a good point. I could be way off on this, but if they're that impetuous, that impatient, then yeah, they might come into next season, and before the season even starts, they'll go, we're going to move Cardosa, right? We're going to go out and get a shooter for Cardosa or something like that, because we don't need two of you. It could be a number of reasons, because like you said, they're used to getting what they want. They used to be one of the contending teams, and obviously they didn't make the postseason this year. Speaking of which, I actually watched both games with the Sun and the Fever. I watched both games. And obviously in the first game, they kind of manhandled the Fever. But what they did is, though, they beat the Fever at their own game. they played fast and they were better at it than the Fever were. And they were a lot better defensively than the Fever were. In the second game, I thought the Fever had that game, and it looked like if they could just there was just like a missed shot here and there where they lost that game. It was literally that close a game coming down the stretch. I thought some of the passes that Caitlin Clark made, Brett, they were Steve Nash or Magic Johnson like passes. The person cutting to the basket, they are not clear and open, and she like throws them open like a quarterback. Like, she's such a great passer, such great court vision. It's not a disappointing season to me. The Fever weren't supposed to even make the playoffs. So for them to not only go on this great run and make the playoffs, even though they're out now, I think you can build off of this season. I think Kelsey Mitchell had a terrific season, basically being the number 2 to Caitlin Clark. Leah Boston she got better as the season progressed. They have some cornerstone pieces. I just think they're a couple of pieces away from really being able to contend.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it was probably the most realistic outcome this entire time that the Fever get knocked out in the first round. This is a young team coming into their first playoff, run. And it kind of just the past tells us that these really young teams that get their first taste of the playoffs, they normally don't get very far. Look at the Orlando Magic this past year. They got their first taste of the playoffs. They lasted one round. They got knocked out in the first round by a more experienced team. This is a team that's only going to get better with time, and it'll be really interesting to see what's the move. Who do the Fever add? The first priority has to be retaining Kelsey Mitchell. She was an absolutely terrific ball player for them.
She was.
And I don't think they can do it without her. I know a lot of people were making jokes because she decided to admit, yeah, I was talking to D'Lo before the playoffs started, and then she playoff numbers.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, a lot of people were making fun of it. But once again, that's fine. She's young. This is a young team that's only going to get better. And if they manage to bring everybody back, they're probably going to be even higher in the seedings next year. That's going to be some insane chemistry between everybody.
If they could get another playmaker on that team to take some pressure off of Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin, to where Caitlin is not always at the point, but sometimes she can play off the ball, I think that would open the floor up for everybody if they could get somebody in there like that to just take some of that pressure off of both of them.
No, absolutely. And just to kind of finish up my thought on the Chicago Sky, at the end of the day, the front office just has to be better constructing a roster conducive to winning. You want to win. You're going to fire your coach in their first year, but yet you draft 2 non-shooting big, and your response was, okay, you know what I'm going to do? You got Carter. That was an absolutely phenomenal pickup. Kennedy Carter was terrific this year. Outside of her, you have absolutely non-existent floor spacing around 2 non-shooting bigs. And you really thought that you were going to do anything offensively? Come on now. I just need them to not be delusional and just be open-minded with this roster. Make sure you make the right moves. Don't look at name value. Look at fit. Because I think you have pieces. You re-signed Carter. I believe he's a free agent this year. I'll say you re-signed Carter. I think she's a free agent this year. You get some better spacing around, Cardoso and Reese. That's going to be a very good basketball team next year. So I think they're close, but I think they have to make sure that they worry about the fit going into next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think they, like you said, the front office, their scouting staff, they've got to be a bit more mindful when it comes to roster construction. You brought up the point, like I said, you can stagger their minutes, but the reality is both of them are zero range players. If they're not in the restricted area, they can't be effective at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And congratulations to Asia Wilson, by the way, for winning an MVP award. That is absolutely fantastic on her part. And, The reality is we knew it was coming, but I
Yeah.
still wanted to congratulate her. Just absolutely terrific season. Just honestly, she's on her way to being the greatest player the WNBA has possibly ever seen.
She's definitely making a strong push for that. I think if she can stay at the level that she's at for, let's say, for another 4 or 5 seasons, she's gonna blow the doors off of that argument.
And everybody had phenomenal. I see the AP poll. They voted Caitlin Clark Rookie of the Year. I'm assuming that's who's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Oh yeah,
Phenomenal rookie year for Angel Reese. Her Rookie of the Year season was absolutely historic. You just happen to go up against arguably the greatest rookie year that we've ever seen. It's arguably right in that conversation. I know a lot of people say Candace Parker because Candace Parker also won an MVP in her rookie year, and I think that's a very valid argument. But there's something I don't necessarily like about that conversation is I think it's really simple. I'm not going to disrespect CP in any way. She was an absolutely great talent.
no doubt.
But she didn't have Asia Wilson in 2008. I think this is a rookie class that if Asia Wilson wasn't around, and even someone like Sabrina, I think they put up numbers that were right up there with Candace Parker. This was an absolutely phenomenal rookie class, and they had some historic seasons. And like I said, I ain't shading Candace Parker. Candace Parker was absolutely terrific in 2008. Deserved every accolade coming to her. So, overall, phenomenal season by these young ladies, and I cannot wait to see next year, especially since Cam Brink will be back. Cannot wait to see more of her.
I'm with you. Agree 100%, partner.
And of course, speaking of MVP awards, I got pose an interesting question, Mo. Who's the greatest NBA player to never win the MVP?
To never win the MVP?
Yeah, the greatest NBA player to never win an MVP. I thought about asking this for DPOY, but then I'm just like, never mind, because somehow Tim Duncan never won one in 15 years.
That's right. Duncan never won an MVP. I think Duncan is at the top of the list. I'm thinking of all the great players.
Well, Duncan won an MVP.
No, he won 3 MVPs. I think he didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
MVP. That one was so.
That one is an interesting question. I mean, I'm looking at Chris Paul.
I know my guy in our one Discord. His name is Heat Lifer, so I'm sure you know where I'm going with this.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 2009 Dwayne Wade. That was absolutely insane. I think if you go before that, you're looking at like Jerry West in like 1966. He was absolutely terrific, but obviously you hard to eye test that year. So I'm going to respectfully say from everything that I've watched every season, give me the greatest player to never win MVP. Give me Dwayne Wade. Give me 09 Dwayne Wade.
And I believe 09 D Wade, I think he averaged like 30 points a game, like 6 assists, 7 rebounds, somewhere in that range. I thought what was most impressive about that D Wade was I think the second leading scorer in the Heat was Udonis Haslem, and he averaged 13 points a game. And I thought, what a huge gap between your leading scorer and your second leading scorer is 13 points a game. You can check that if you want to, but I believe that's the season where Haslem was the second leading scorer.
Yeah, I'm curious now because I didn't actually look at like who the second leading scorer was.
Because that was a year before LeBron got there, right?
Oh no way! It was actually our guy Michael Beasley with 14.
How many games did Michael Beasley play for the Heat that year?
78.
Look at Michael Beasley. See, Michael Beasley can be a second leading scorer on a mediocre team.
Oh, you know what? I was looking 1 year sooner. That's my bad. Actually, it was still Michael Beasley the year before that. So, yeah, he can lead the team to the playoffs if he had somebody to average an efficient 30 a game, I guess. It's funny, though, because that's everybody. When I think about some of the greatest, like, playoff performances, I really feel like that sometimes there's quite a few players that, lost that don't get enough love. Obviously because they lost.
Sure.
I'm talking about, and the name that came to mind for this one was also 2009 Dwayne Wade. He absolutely torched the Celtics. They had absolutely no answer for him. They just obviously had an answer for everybody else was the issue.
Right.
And it was making me thinking, man, we had a couple of incredible 09 performances because 1 year later, I guess this would be no, that was 09. LeBron against Orlando in that same playoff. He lost, but he gave us an all-time great playoff.
Oh, his numbers were insane for that series. Like, I think he average like 30, 34, 35. Like, I mean, he was dominant. The problem was guys that had played well for him in the regular season, they didn't do their jobs. Matter of fact, I believe, wasn't that the year that Shaq was on Orlando?
That was the year before that.
Was it?
That was Dwight Howard bullying guys like Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Ben Wallace.
That with Ben Wallace past his prime, Ben Wallace, right?
Yeah, that really almost seemed like the biggest issue at the end of the day. It's nobody they had an answer for Dwight Howard.
And the thing was, though, Dwight was giving them like I think he averaged like 21, 22. He played well, but what hurt Cleveland in that series were Orlando shooters, Turkoglu, Rashard Lewis, that were hitting those big threes. Mind you, they did this without Jameer Nelson. They did it without Jameer Nelson, their best point guard, who made the All-Star team that year. Like, I remember when LeBron and JJ Redick did an episode of their podcast, and JJ Redick was talking about, man, you lost to the Magic, but nobody points out the fact that you lost to a team that had Turkoglu and Rashard Lewis and Dwight Howard and Jameer Nelson. Nobody pointed out that fact. And mind you now, JJ Redick was on that Magic's team. He was Jameer Nelson's teammate, and he didn't realize Jameer Nelson didn't play in the series, boy. He didn't play.
Yeah, and it's crazy. That was such a huge injury for them, and they still managed to make the finals anyway. That just shows you how great that team really was. A lot of people downplay it because, they didn't have, a big three or a big four. They didn't have all the all-stars and just high name recognition. But what they did have, immaculate fit. You put four shooters around Dwight Howard, Rashard Lewis, Hedo Turkoglu, guys of that nature. And it worked to perfection. And to me, a lot of people talk about how LeBron, how LeBron choked and Kobe didn't. I don't think I just think that Magic was a really good team, and it just shows how far along the Lakers were over the Cleveland Cavaliers. Is how much better built that was.
Yeah. Look, I was disappointed because nobody wanted to see Kobe and LeBron match up in the finals more than me. I wanted that. I thought for sure that was a lock that year. Kobe and LeBron in the finals. I think Mo Williams had a big season that year for them. Z's always solid. Like, they had Varejao coming off the bench. They had a lot of characters who kind of LeBron made them fit. And then they got to the postseason and they didn't play so well.
What up? This is one of the guys from the Thinking Basketball Discord. He's Al Horford's biggest supporter and is a reverse enigma. Shout out to my boy, Reverse Enigma.
Oh, man, an Al Horford fan. Nothing wrong with that. Big Al's had a great career.
He's a Dallas Mavericks fan, so we got to watch them make a heck of a run last year. I'm excited, honestly. I'm excited about that team. I'm actually mostly intrigued because I like to pick on like the non like star players. So I know Luca and Kyrie will get all the headlines. I'm excited to see year 2 of Derek Lively.
That was my guy. You read my mind. I want to see how much better Lively gets.
It's always funny because everybody likes to focus in on the big name stars, but no, I always like to focus in on the supporting cast around it. Maybe because I know at the end of the day, those are the guys that are really going to make the difference for a title. So, also, I did love the move, the Mavs getting. There was, I think it was Najee Marshall
That's
from
another from
from the
the
Pelicans.
They got another good defender. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about. I know I was super confident earlier. I was talking like I said, I was talking some Bucks earlier, and I was asked who are the Bucks scared of, and I said healthy, nobody.
I don't think you guys should be afraid of anybody if you guys are healthy. I think if you play Boston, I think your team has as good a chance as any team in the East to dethrone them. And look, they're very familiar with each other, Boston and Milwaukee is, so that's always going to be a great tough series. I think if you're a Mavs fans, like I said, we're going to find out a lot about the Mavericks this season because that was a great run. I don't know if that was just a great run or if it was the start of something where the Mavericks are going to be perennial title contenders. Because, like I said, Memphis healthy changes everything. Memphis healthy changes the dynamic in all the Western Conference.
Okay, that was good. He said shouldn't be scared of Doc.
Well, that's actually a fair point. I mean, if you guys are not going to win the title, a lot's going to have to do with your head coach.
It I gotta avoid giving myself false hope because I'm like, man, Doc came in and our defense looked actually really good under him. If he could just find a more balanced offense, I'm just I I'm just like now like every single fan that I've made fun of for believing in Doc Rivers because I have no choice but to believe in Doc Rivers because I want my team to succeed. So now I have to sit here and convince myself why Doc Rivers is a good coach and he's going to lead this team to a title. It's a chore.
To be fair, they've been killing Doc for like what the last 4 or 5 seasons. I'm the only one that points this out. If we're being fair, what has Tyronn Lue done since he won that title? What has he done? And I like Ty Lue, but let's keep it 100. What has he won since that title?
Let's see. Ty Lue, yeah.
Ty Lue is a
back.
young Doc Rivers. He's a young Doc Rivers.
That's fair because just like Doc, he made it back to 2 more. No, wait, no. Doc made a total of 2 finals. Ty Lue made it to 3.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking about like he goes to the Clippers. What's happened? Now, granted, you can't control the injuries. I understand that, and that's fair. But I'm just saying, it's been a minute. I mean, this is 2024. That title was I mean, it's not as long away as Doc's title because that was what 08. That's a minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Clippers, and of course, and we have that news that Kawhi Leonard will not be ready for the start of the regular season.
There it is.
You don't seem shocked. Is anybody shocked?
I'm not shocked by the way, again, I have to remind people, him and Uncle Dennis negotiated with the Clippers. They examined him. Their doctors examined him. They knew full well that he has chronic knee issues. When you say the word chronic, that means that no matter what procedure you do, he's going to have some problems. And they still signed him. Steve Ballmer just resigned the man. He just gave him another contract, gave him an extension. No, all that. And I'm not trying to bang on Kawhi because he's a great player when healthy. The problem is you can almost book it, Brett, at some point in this season when he does play, everybody's going to cringe every time he bumps somebody or he goes to the hole and he falls down, right? You're just waiting for him to go, well, Kawhi Leonard's going to miss the next month or two. Like, he's one of those guys that the injury gods just don't care for.
Yeah, that's fair. And it was kind of the only kick. It's always unfortunate when somebody gets injured, but it's always like the comment section underneath that sometimes kind of gives me a chuckle. And it's because they did exactly what I always find funny. They're like, oh, that means we're getting this version of James Harden. And they start showing like Rockets James Harden clips.
Stop.
I'm like, what? Like, I think I see Terrence Jones in that picture. Like, I don't think anybody. I don't think you're cutting anything near Rockets. I don't think you're getting even, I don't even think you're getting first year Philadelphia 76er James Harden.
You're not. What they fail to realize is he's aged, man. Like this is a different James Harden. Do I think he's capable on a given night of having a 30, 35 point game? Yep. Do I think he's going to average on over the course of a season 26, 27 points a game? I do not. I think this version of James Harden, where he's at age-wise, where his body is at, I can see him going up to like 20 points a game, 9 assists. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's not a reach. He averaged 16 last year. Him adding 4 more points a game, that's not a stunning development. But people thinking he's going to look like the guy that was averaging 30 and 9 assists a game, that's not happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I still think he's going to be a very good player. Don't think this is my James Harden hate train. I do think that he's still going to be a productive player. I think he might even average a double-double for you. He might be a 20 and 10 guy in points and assists. But this ain't that James Harden anymore. And I'm sure that he'll probably come out opening night with a vintage performance. He's going to go off without Kawhi for like, who knows, maybe he'll have like a 30, 35 and 10 game. He'll just go nuts opening night. I could absolutely see it.
Brett, maybe he blows our mind. Maybe he does 30 points a game and 8 assists, let's say over the course of a month. And Steve Ballmer goes, you know what? Trade Kawhi. I'm just saying, Steve Ballmer is so desperate for any kind of success. If he looked at Harden and thought he might, if he can do 30 and 8 and we're a few games over 500, if I can make a trade for Kawhi and bring in like just some more talented players, maybe not stars, but just guys who can help. Because the rule was the same way you did Dwight Howard. If you put shooters around James Harden and you let him dance, he does his thing.
Yeah, but for Clippers fan sanity, I'm hoping that Steve Ballmer doesn't try to build around James Harden, but this man is he's building a new stadium. I think at this point he's probably just mostly invested in short-term success and win now, put some butts in this new stadium. So to do something insanely irrational would not surprise me if the Clippers tried.
I think also look, Kawhi, even when he's healthy, you got to remember he's 31, either 31 or 32. He's closer to the end than he is the beginning. And all jokes aside, whether Harden plays, like old Harden or he's just an old Harden, I think the Clippers should really consider the unthinkable and look to move Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, no, actually, that's something I agree with. I think Kawhi Leonard's still a talented basketball player, but I think it's apparent at this point he cannot be the guy anymore.
Nope.
And it's not like I don't think he can be the guy on the court, because when he steps on the court, when he played last year, I thought he was one of the 10 best basketball players in the league. He was that good when he played, but his body just doesn't hold up anymore like it should. Like, when he was healthy, I was debating putting him on my All-NBA first team at the end of the year. That's how good a healthy Kawhi Leonard still is.
I remember the conversations we had. Yeah, look.
It's a tough balancing act. Like, what's the value of somebody who, when he plays, is still so amazing that he's still All-NBA caliber, but just cannot stay healthy and is on the wrong side of 30?
Right, and so he's on the wrong side of 30, and any moment now he can be in decline. Not to mention the injuries can rear its ugly head. Like if you're the Clippers and you've got an opportunity, one, he gets healthy, you get him healthy. you trade him while the iron's hot, right? Like, because the there's a small window from when Kawhi's healthy and he's injured again. So you trade and look, you and I talked about this. Kawhi Leonard on a contender in a supporting role where he's not the number one guy. He's a number two, or maybe him and they already have a number two, and him and the number two, he's number 2, 1, or 2A and 2B. I think in a supporting role where he doesn't have to play as many minutes, you might get still great value. If you go somewhere and you get Kawhi Leonard, and let's say there's 3 years left on his deal, but you guys win one title, that's money well spent.
Yeah, I agree. Any trade that results in winning a title, it's money well spent. You know, it's an age-old argument that people don't seem to grasp. I still always see people, oh, we shouldn't have traded for Anthony Davis. No, you should have, because he won the title off of it. So please stop mentioning it.
I'm in that wheelhouse. I was like, come on, you know what LeBron's gonna do. If he can get AD, we're gonna get AD, and if we get AD, we're a title contender. I get it. You traded away a lot of young, talented players. What I always tell the people that are still whining about that is, has Brandon Ingram won a title? No. Has any of those guys that we traded and got AD for won anything? The answer is no.
Honestly, like, that's the best trade. It's really trading away, getting rid of Caldwell Pope and letting Caruso walk. That was really
oh god, those terrible moves.
Like, to me, like, yeah, make the AD trade again, but keep Caruso, man, at least. Like, and he went to Chicago on a very reasonable contract. That's what threw me off. That's why I was so shocked that the Lakers didn't re-sign him. The fact that he went for like $8 million a year, something like that.
And they'll never admit it, but trading Caldwell Pope and a couple other guys for Russ. Woo. I mean, I'm just saying, if we had kept KCP and Caruso, those two guys are perfect glue guys, great perimeter defenders, both could hit timely threes. Guys like that who are not stars have great value. They might not be stars, but they impact winning.
No, absolutely. So yeah, that's all I had for us tonight, Mo. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, we covered it. We had a blast. Always great talking hoops. I appreciate everybody that tuned in to another episode of the N1 podcast. The next episode up, my friend, I believe that will be episode 30.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll try to plan some great surprises. We'll have some fun. We'll do some lists. We'll just hit all the stops. And of course, you know the NBA season starts on the 22nd. Well, the first episode of the N1 podcast, I'm thinking during basketball season, Mo, watch along?
I'm right there. Watch along. Let's do it.
All right, and I will tell you the game. There it is. I blanked for a second. Watch along Thunder Nuggets. I think that's a great way for us to get our NBA season kicked off.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now you're talking about SGA and crew going up against the Joker, the new look Nuggets. Yeah, I want to see that.
No, absolutely. So, like I said, next week, episode 30, definitely tune in. We're going to have a ton of fun. We're going to talk more hoops. And like I said, next month, NBA season starts. Watch along. When college starts up, we'll definitely have some more puppy prospects for you guys. It's a little bit of a dull moment with the prospects. So it's kind of tough to really pick them out right now because there's not much in the terms of hoops going on. But when it starts up, don't get me wrong, we will be bringing back some more prospects for you.
Good. Can't wait.
In the meantime, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you have a Discord, you can bring the conversation over there for the N1 podcast, the N1 podcast Discord page. There's a link on our Facebook. You can join up and continue the conversation. Thank you, everybody who tuned in tonight, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night.
Thank you for tuning in to the And One podcast. If you like our content, you can find more on the Wire to Wire Podcast Network on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Want more And One? Find it on Wire to Wire. Like and share our Facebook page, and join the And One Discord. Grab the link to join from our Facebook. Thank you for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.